Okay, now we have discussed in the previous class the intercostal apparatus part 1, in which we discussed the intercostal spaces, intercostal muscles, the three groups: external intercostal, internal intercostal, and the transverse thoracic muscle. And then we discussed the intercostal nerves. Now in this intercostal apparatus portion, the part 2, we are going to discuss first here the intercostal arteries. We have already given you some idea that intercostal vein, artery and nerves, they run actually in the same location, that is in the costal groove, wherever the costal groove is available. Under the first rib, because the costal groove is not there, so they are running under the smooth surface, the inferior smooth surface of the first rib. But in typical rib, you see they are running in the costal groove, but they are running in the costal groove between the muscles here. Muscles are three groups here, but they are running here between the second and third layer, means internal intercostal and the innermost intercostal, or you can say transverse thoracic muscle here. So the nerves are also there, arteries there as well, and the veins also there. But in case of nerves, we discussed previously that the nerves, they emerge from the spinal cord in form of sensory and motor roots. The mixed nerve, the posterior ramus will stay there, and the anterior ramus will in fact will travel a long way. So much so that in the posterior part of intercostal space, the same intercostal nerve is there, and the anterior part of the intercostal space, the same nerve is there, because the source of the nerve is the spinal cord is lying only on the back side. But in case of arteries, and even in case of veins also, this is not this is not actually the pattern here. The pattern here is that posteriorly, the posterior intercostal veins arteries are actually emerging from the separate source, and the anterior side they are emerging from the separate source. That's why we say we have to discuss here the posterior intercostal arteries and the anterior intercostal arteries separately, and we have to see their pattern also. Like for example, you see intercostal arteries, already they are present. We have been showing you here also. Intercostal arteries, they are running in the grooves. I say they are running in the intercostal spaces here. And here have been actually has been shown the anterior intercostal arteries. Actually, we have got the posterior also. So in the anterior and the posterior intercostal arteries, we have separate pattern here. And the intercostal arteries, we have already told you that they run in the transverse in the groove, in the subcostal groove between transverse thoracic and the internal intercostal. In a pattern of VAN pattern, you see that in a VAN sequence, means the veins and the arteries. The arteries are actually in the middle of this veins and the nerves. So vein actually is running above the artery and the nerves running below the artery in the same groove. And in this whole pattern which we will be actually discussing, the intercostal space, anteriorly it will have, you see here, anteriorly it will have the two arteries in each space, and posteriorly it will have just one. So we have got posteriorly one artery, and anteriorly we have actually two arteries. So anterior intercostal arteries, which are smaller actually, they are two in number in each space, and posterior intercostal arteries, they are one, they are single, and they are larger and longer also. You can see also. Vein should be here, artery has been shown, and nerve is there. So this is VAN arrangement. Vein, intercostal artery, intercostal nerve. See again here, vein is lying above this one, artery you are seeing, and this is the nerve lying in the costal groove. Now you see here, first of all, the anterior intercostal arteries. So watch here the pattern of distribution of the anterior intercostal arteries. If you are actually looking at this, the first intercostal space which you are actually seeing here, the second intercostal, and third and fourth and sixth, up to this, these intercostal arteries which are you see in each space there are two. This first intercostal space, two intercostal arteries, anterior intercostal, here again two, another, you see here two again, fourth space two, fifth space two, and the sixth also space two, up to six. Is from the first to the sixth intercostal space. These are anterior intercostal arteries. Basically, these are the arteries which are actually emerged from this branch which you are seeing here, this green color, which is lying behind the costal cartilages. Actually, it is coming from the subclavian artery. And if you see here, for example, this is the heart here, Heart is giving you the ascending aorta. This is the arch of aorta. This is the descending aorta. And from the arch of aorta is emerging the subclavian artery. And subclavian artery, you know that on the left side in form of brachiocephalic trunk, then it will be common carotid and subclavian. But on the right side, common carotid is separate and subclavian is separate. Now, this subclavian artery, which we are actually telling you here, from its concavity, from here on both sides, it is actually sending here a branch down here into the thoracic cavity. You see, this is here into the thoracic cavity, but it is not going into the cavity, it is touching the back surfaces of inner surfaces of the costal cartilages. So, they are actually part of the wall, not the cavity. So, they are actually touching them. So, they are crossing the first costal cartilage, okay, they are leaving the root of the neck, touching the back of the first costal cartilage, then crossing the first intercostal space, second costal cartilage, second intercostal space, third costal cartilage, then third space, fourth, then fourth, fifth, sixth and sixth intercostal space, where it terminates into two. I say it will bifurcate here. Bifurcate means one branch that will enter here into the abdomen. This one, this is called the superior epigastric artery. This is superior epigastric artery. This is actually the artery which is going here to supply the anterior abdominal wall. But this next artery, which is actually be passing over the dome of the diaphragm in this way, you see this is one here. It's called the musculophrenic artery. And if you are actually looking at this musculophrenic artery, so you can say the internal thoracic artery, this artery which I am actually showing you is emerging here from the concavity of your subclavian. This one. This emerging from the concavity of the subclavian, so it should go actually downward here into the thorax obviously. And during its course, it is crossing the 6 intercostal spaces. So, in 6 intercostal spaces, it is actually giving 6 pairs of anterior intercostal arteries, which have already been shown here. First pair, the second pair, the third pair, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth. You see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 pairs are there until it will bifurcate into 2. The one which has actually got rid of the thoracic wall has gone into the anterior part of the anterior abdominal wall, the central part of the anterior abdominal wall in the rectus sheath here, that you will actually see in the rectus abdomen, in the rectus sheath in the abdomen. But the second one is actually going over the dome of the diaphragm here. This is called the musculophrenic artery. Musculophrenic, as the name suggests, phrenic means diaphragm, musculo means muscle. Muscle of the diaphragm is being supplied by this obviously, but during its course it is crossing here. Like a dome, it is crossing here. Because it is crossing here, this intercostal space means the 7th, then 8th also, then 9th as well. So, it is actually giving the pairs in the 7th, in the 8th, and the 9th. In these arteries, you see this is actually sending the pair. Here is 1, the 2nd, the 3rd also, and even in the 10th also. But usually 3, 7, 8 and 9 here. These are the intercostal arteries. So, do you say that anterior intercostal arteries in the upper 6 means 1 to 6 anterior intercostal arteries in pairs obviously. They emerge from the internal thoracic, which is the branch of the subclavian, which you know that is actually emerging directly from left side from the brachiocephalic trunk, which is one of the 3 branches of the arch of aorta. And arch of aorta is continuously actually continues back here, continues back here proximally to the ascending aorta, and ascending aorta emerges from the left ventricle. So, 6 spaces have been already supplied anteriorly, anterior intercostal, and the next 3 spaces, the anterior intercostal arteries will actually emerge from one of the branches of one of the 2 branches of the internal thoracic, that is the musculophrenic. This is musculophrenic. This is musculophrenic artery. So, musculophrenic is given the next ones. Now, as far as the others are concerned, others means it should be okay, it is 7th, 8th and 9th, why not 10th and 11th? The 10th and 11th, and why not 10th, 11th and 12th for example? The reason is that because these intercostal spaces, they do not, you see this intercostal space 7th reaches up to here, 8th up to here, 9th up to here, the 10th will be here. Here means it is not actually reaching to the anterior side when the space does not reach, so posterior intercostal artery is enough for him. For this intercostal space, the next intercostal spaces you see 10th, 11th and 12th is the no intercostal space, it is subcostal. So, for these 3 we do not need any anterior intercostal arteries. So, that means 1 to 6 already you know that is from the internal thoracic. You are watching this again, the internal thoracic. This is one of the terminal branches that is called this is called the inferior epigastric, and this is the artery which is called the musculophrenic. And musculophrenic is actually giving you here the branches here, the pair to the 7th, here the 8th and 9th, etc. But this one here, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, they come directly from the internal thoracic, and you know the internal thoracic is coming from the subclavian that continues in the axilla as axillary artery. So internal thoracic artery was this, and you see here also, you can see this is internal thoracic artery. It has been shown you here on 2 sides here, and this is giving now intercostal. This is, so you are watching the intercostal here. At the same time, this is actually giving here external branches also on the back side. So internal thoracic, and you have seen the anterior intercostal coming after. This green color has been shown you in pairs. We have shown you then. But these arteries, they come from here. See this artery. This is a musculophrenic branches. And you are watching this again. Anterior intercostal coming from this. This means internal thoracic, which is also giving external branches. External branches have been shown you here. 7th to 9th, already I told you that is coming from musculophrenic. Musculophrenic, one of the terminal branches of the internal thoracic. The second terminal branch being superior epigastric, that has gone into the abdomen. See again, internal thoracic. This is superior epigastric. As internal thoracic is giving here, musculophrenic here, and musculophrenic is giving one by one the lower 7th and 8th. You see this is called 7th, 8th and 9th intercostal spaces, branches. You see this is musculophrenic has been actually showing you here the musculophrenic. You see this is a musculophrenic is going here onto the over the diaphragm. It's giving now the branches here. Intercostal arteries have been shown you. You see this is a paired intercostal arteries, smaller but paired, but they will anastomose with the intercostal arteries which are coming from behind. Behind means you see that they are coming from behind. Behind is the single, but the posterior intercostal which is single behind will give actually the cutaneous branches, so there will be 2 also. We will show you in this also. The 10th and 11th intercostal, anterior intercostal, the lower 2 anterior intercostals, they are not required. The reason, because anterior intercostal space doesn't reach anteriorly up to here. It will be present, doesn't actually reach anteriorly. We have the abdomen. Now, as far as the posterior intercostal arteries are concerned, see the pattern of the posterior intercostal arteries. You see upper 2 spaces, because posterior intercostal arteries, we have actually no problem with the posterior intercostal arteries. Watch here, leave 1st and 2nd posterior intercostal space, straight away go here to the 3rd and the 11th space. 3rd space and the 11th space, and you see the 3rd space and 11th space. If I am actually telling you 3rd space, so 3rd space must be lying, say this is 1st rib from behind, 1st rib, this is 2nd rib, this is 3rd rib, and this is the 4th rib. So here should be 4th thoracic vertebra, here should be 3rd, here should be 2nd, here should be the 1st thoracic vertebra. This is my 1st space, this is my 2nd space, this is my 3rd space, because this is the lower part of the T4 here, and this is the area which you know anteriorly corresponds to the mandibulosternal joint, that is the sternal angle. This is up to T4, this is my space, this is my 4th space. So this is a space here. So here in this area, you already know that these 2 vertebrae, 3rd and 4th vertebra, these 2 vertebrae, they are actually lying behind the manubrium sterna. And behind the manubrium sterna is arching your arch of aorta also. And it's coming down here. Means your arch of aorta, when finishes here, your descending aorta starts, that starts at the lower border of your 4th thoracic vertebra, and the lower border of your 4th thoracic vertebra means this will be where your 4th rib is there, and above the 4th rib you already know we have got 3rd intercostal space, and below the 4th rib you have got here the 4th intercostal space. Means aorta is enough by himself, aorta is enough to supply the 3rd intercostal space, then the 4th, then the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th up to the 11th. You see this here. You say, sir, why not above in these spaces? Because in these spaces we have arch of aorta, not the descending aorta. And this arch of aorta, which actually is here means arch of aorta starts at the sternal angle and finishes at the sternal angle. Means this arch of aorta entirely will be behind the mandibulosternal behind the manubrium sterni. And manubrium sterni, behind the manubrium sterni, we have got 3rd and 4th thoracic vertebrae. That means at the level of the 4th thoracic vertebrae, just above that will be the just at this level will be your fourth rib, means above will be your third intercostal space, below will be your fourth intercostal space. Means you can supply the third intercostal space, then fourth, then fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th. You can supply them, and not unilaterally, you have the permission to actually supply them bilaterally even. So aorta is enough for them. If aorta is enough for them, that means bilaterally aorta itself, thoracic part of the aorta, this is called thoracic aorta, which is lying actually the back in the posterior mediastinum, the thoracic aorta, descending aorta, the thoracic aorta, which will become, which will penetrate the aortic orifice of your diaphragm to become abdominal aorta also, but here the thoracic aorta only, that will bilaterally supply the third to 11th intercostal spaces, not the first and second, because the first and second aorta, descending aorta was not present. Arch of aorta is present, so this is the responsibility of arch of aorta to supply the upper two spaces bilaterally obviously, but not the intercostal spaces below that. So from 3rd to 11th bilaterally it will be supplied here by your descending aorta. So you can see here descending aorta, it is supplying bilaterally the 3rd, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, because 12th is the subcostal, and subcostal will also be supplied surely by the aorta itself. So the posterior intercostal arteries will be actually like here. You can see here, this is aorta, green color aorta, and aorta is giving now the posterior intercostal arteries. The posterior intercostal arteries will enter into the costal groove, and where already is waiting vein above and the nerve below, and actually the artery will be actually entering here in the costal groove. You see this, it is entering in the costal groove. This is long posterior intercostal, which is running along with the intercostal nerve also, and as well as vein. Vein and arteries pattern is almost same. So here see, this is called thoracic, and thoracic aorta is giving now your posterior intercostal, green color, you see the posterior intercostal artery is being given here, which will anastomose, you see the posterior intercostal arteries, which will give here the lateral cutaneous branch here, see this lateral branches also, and these lateral branches and the posterior intercostal itself, now they will become two, and two will easily now anastomose with the paired anterior intercostal arteries in that corresponding space. They can easily anastomose like here. So your anterior and posterior intercostal arteries will anastomose this way. So each intercostal space has been provided with the posterior intercostal. I told you that from the aorta, from the descending aorta, but from 3rd to 11. What about the 12th? 12th already you see, this is again aorta is giving one artery. The artery is running in the costal groove along with the vein and the nerve. It is giving your lateral branch, lateral cutaneous branch, which is going behind also, in front also, but anteriorly from the internal thoracic artery. A branch has been given. This is forming here, you see anterior intercostal one, here another, because it is paired. The one branch which will be more superficial will anastomose the lateral cutaneous branch of your posterior intercostal. This is anterior rhetoid, and this posterior intercostal, anterior intercostal second branch will anastomose with the posterior intercostal. So you see your whole anastomosis will be in fact formed like here, and they are also giving the posterior branches as well. They are anastomosing here. So the whole dermatome, they are not dermatome arrangement, but this whole dermatome or the piece will be actually supplied here. What about the 12th intercostal? Just like your subcostal, you have already seen here. Subcostal, like your 12th intercostal, say 12th thoracic anterior ramus. This is also passing here underneath here, like here. This is nerve, but the artery will also pass like this. This is called subcostal artery. That passes posterior to the lateral arcuate ligament. You have already seen here, this is medial arcuate ligament, the lateral arcuate ligaments, from where your diaphragm is emerging also. The lateral arcuate ligament is the thickened upper margin of the fascia covering the quadratus lumborum muscle, and the medial arcuate ligament is the thickened fascia, or the thickened part of the fascia covering the psoas major muscle. So this is called the subcostal or the 12th intercostal. But don't call 12th intercostal, we call them subcostal. But what about that first and second? Come back to the first and second. You see here, first and second, the posterior intercostal arteries, they emerge. Why? Because at that level we have aorta from here. You see that we have aorta from here. Above that we don't have aorta, but above that we see, above that we have arch of aorta. And this is arch of, if above that we have, behind this level we have arch of aorta. And arch of aorta, you know that on either side, you see it is giving here on this side, on your right side, brachiocephalic trunk, but brachiocephalic trunk will give common carotid and subclavian, but on the left side, common carotid separate and subclavian separate. So if it is the arch of aorta is giving you these branches, out of this the carotids, they will not supply the thoracic walls. Okay, the subclavian can supply, and you have already noted here anteriorly the subclavian has given from its concavity the two internal thoracic arteries, one on the either side here. Again the same subclavian will have another contribution, this time on the back side here. Back side means because on its convexity above it is giving here a very important branch. You see this one. You see this green color I am showing you here. This one. This is called costocervical trunk. Watch it here. This one. Costocervical trunk. As the name suggests, costocervical, costal and cervical. Cervical means first branch it will actually send here in the deep parts of your neck. You call them deep cervical artery. You see this. But another artery that will actually send behind here. Sending behind, not too inferiorly, but at least it will cross from behind two spaces, the first intercostal space and the second intercostal space, so that you can provide the branches to these spaces here. This is first posterior intercostal, this is second posterior intercostal, this one is first, this one is second. Through this now you can fill your posterior intercostal spaces. Anteriorly we don't have any problem because internal thoracic artery, which incidentally is also a branch from the concavity of your the subclavian, same artery's contribution again anteriorly, but here posteriorly this artery will contribute through this branch. This branch name is the superior intercostal artery. Superior intercostal artery. Superior intercostal artery, which is the one of the two terminal branches of the costocervical trunk, which is the branch of the subclavian, and subclavian comes out of the arch of aorta, and arch of aorta continues into the descending ascending aorta, and ascending aorta comes into the left ventricle. This is the second and third posterior intercostal arteries actually source, and the first and second, third to 11th already you have done, and 12th is the subcostal. These are the posterior. Anteriorly you have seen here we don't have 12, we have only 9 from 1 to 6. This is from the internal thoracic, and from 7, 8 and 9 from the musculophrenic, the terminal branch of the internal thoracic again. Now the same is the case, almost the same is the case in intercostal veins also. Again I told you that intercostal veins running here. Here anteriorly you have 2 again, posteriorly you have the 1. The same arrangement. They run in the groove, they run forward in the groove. Which groove? The costal groove. And arrangement there is, it's a vein, so this is lying in the highest. You see this is the highest in sequence is this vein, and then is the artery, then is the nerve. VAN arrangement is the costal groove, and then you have seen these things also. You see again the artery is there, the nerve is there, and here should be the vein. Now as for the anterior intercostal veins are concerned, same, no say difference, just like identical you see to the arteries, but this time you will not call them branches, you call them tributaries. Tributaries, you see that they are also 2, same. So here you see the tributaries are the first intercostal space, second intercostal space, third, the fourth, the fifth, sixth. They enter where? They enter into reverse here, they enter into the internal thoracic vein. And internal thoracic vein is the tributary of subclavian vein. First, second, third, 4, 5, 6. On both sides, same. Just like you see in the arteries. This is also the branch of subclavian. Subclavian is here. A subclavian coming from this side, and you see from head and neck is coming the internal jugular vein, both joined together to form brachiocephalic vein. And both brachiocephalic veins, they join together to form superior vena cava, and superior vena cava will open here into right atrium of the heart. So anterior intercostal veins are intercostal spaces 1 to 6, it is a problem solved here. But we told you that this intercostal, you say this internal thoracic vein is formed as a result of, now this time is reverse, it's formed as a result of the superior epigastric vein and musculophrenic vein. And this time the next spaces, which next spaces means will be the 7th space, with the 8th space and with the 9th space, their veins will drain into the musculophrenic vein. And musculophrenic will join the superior epigastric vein to form the internal thoracic, and internal thoracic will join the subclavian. A subclavian will join the internal jugular to form the brachiocephalic, and 2 brachiocephalic will join together to form superior vena cava. This is your superior vena cava. That opens into, you see, right atrium. So you can say if this is heart is there, you see heart, this will be your arch of aorta. Arch of aorta is giving here, okay, this one here, subclavian, and this is becoming axillary. And the subclavian, so this is now your internal thoracic, which is the 6 intercostal space divides into musculophrenic and superior epigastric, and this is the internal thoracic which is giving you now first intercostal, anterior, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, say, and then the 7th will be from musculophrenic, 8th also, 9th also. Why not 10th, 11th and subcostal? Because at the posterior side you see this intercostal space doesn't reach anteriorly up to this area, you see sternum stops here, so we don't have anterior chest wall actually so down here. That's why intercostal space doesn't reach too low. That's why anterior intercostal space is not supplied here by the anterior intercostal veins here, not drained by the anterior intercostal veins. This is about your internal thoracic vein you are watching here like this, going into the subclavian vein. Subclavian vein, already you see the subclavian, this internal jugular, subclavian, internal jugular, brachiocephalic. Both brachiocephalic will join together to form your superior vena cava. So anterior intercostals you are watching here. See again. These are the anterior intercostal veins. From 7th to 9th, already we told you that, from musculophrenic this time, this one. Internal thoracic vein, watch here. So anterior intercostal veins again in pairs. At 10th to 11th, we told you that it's coming from musculophrenic. Now about the posterior intercostal vein. Actually here the problem is that posteriorly you see that when the heart is lying in the middle, superior vena cava comes from here and inferior vena cava here. That means just behind the heart, aorta is present, but just behind the heart we don't have actually great veins as such. So posterior intercostal spaces are looking for their drainage system, a separate drainage system. And the separate drainage system basically happens like this, you see this here, like this. A separate drainage system actually has to be created here in such a way that this system is basically an unpaired system. Unpaired system means it is not a zygous system, it is an azygous system. Zygote actually is coming from zygous, zygo means paired. This is unpaired, means it is on left side here, just like posterior intercostal arteries emerging from the same aorta from left and right. So it was the paired system, you see that. But here from the left side, the arrangement is different, on the right side the arrangement is different. Though these two arrangements will finally join here, but they are actually different here in such a way that we are bringing here down. For example, previously we saw that from the 3rd to 9th, I say 3rd to 11th intercostal spaces, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, means we have actually 9 intercostal spaces bilaterally were supplied here by the aorta. 9 intercostal spaces. Upper 2 from superior intercostal and the lower was the subcostal. The subcostal obviously from aorta bilaterally also. So that means we had actually 9 intercostal spaces posteriorly we have to fill here by the veins now. But here we will fill them not 9 but we will fill 8 intercostal spaces. This time from not from 3rd to 11 but from 4th to 11. 4, 5, 6, I say 4 to 11th you can say. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Means first half you can say. Now this space means how many? 8 spaces posteriorly you have to fill in such a way that on the right side obviously in continuity all 8 spaces will drain their veins now in a same vein, but in the other side, in the left side, 4 upper veins they will drain into the separate and 4 lower veins will drain into the separate. 4 means which one? From 4, 4, 6, 4, 5, 6, 7 and here 8, 9, 10, 11. So from 4, 5, 6, 7 and here will be 8, 9, 10 and 11. But here from 4 to 11 in continuity in the same. So you can say these veins are, but who will and how you will drain, for example, the lower here, these lower means from 4 to 11 veins, how you will drain them? You see here. Actually what happens? Here is your diaphragm. this vein, because it will drain now, it will drain actually 8 veins here. 8 means from your 4th posterior intercostal up to 11th posterior intercostal, it will here, and obviously subcostal also, they will drain in the same vein in such a way that in the abdomen there is the top vein that is called the lumbar vein, because if the intercostal veins posteriorly are there close to the thoracic vertebrae, so close to the lumbar vertebrae there are also 5 veins, lumbar veins, but you will take here the top vein. Top means first lumbar vein. First lumbar vein will show you and will give you here an ascending branch, means this is first lumbar vein, and first lumbar vein will give you an ascending branch here. This ascending branch is called the ascending lumbar vein. This is a branch coming from the first lumbar vein, and that will join with the subcostal which is already present. And this subcostal, because subcostal also having a problem, because subcostal artery was present, and artery was present, so aorta was also present. If the aorta is present, so artery was draining into the aorta, but because the great vein is not present, so this vein which is actually present here, which one? The 12th thoracic vein, or the 12th thoracic means you can say subcostal vein, you say subcostal. It will get a contribution from the first lumbar's ascending branch here called the ascending lumbar vein. They both join and will form this larger vein. See the subcostal and the ascending, they join to form this one here. So this vein will be created. This vein which has been formed as a result of the subcostal veins confluence with the ascending lumbar vein, this is called azygous vein. So this is the azygous vein which I am showing you, which will penetrate the diaphragm from the same foramen through which the aorta is coming, and through that foramen means the aortic orifice that lying at the level of the T12 vertebra. So it is not just the descending aorta, but the azygous vein, they are lying in such a way that the aorta is lying left and the azygous vein is lying towards the right, and in between both of them is actually sitting the thoracic duct. But leave it, show you this now. This is called the azygous vein, that is actually running where? That is running on the vertebral column on its right side here. This is coming here, 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 here. So see here the azygous vein, and during its course now it is receiving very comfortably the posterior intercostal vein from the 11th space, 10th, 9th, likewise it will be 8th, 7th, like 4. Up to here the 4th it will be receiving, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Not from other side here, not from this side. Okay, here so how many spaces remaining? First, second and third spaces are remaining. We will actually see them. In arteries, how many spaces are remaining there? Only first and second. But here in the vein, all these spaces are remaining. In these spaces, if they are remaining here, so here big artery, big vein has been shown here. This is called azygous vein. Azygous vein reaches up the level of you can say up to the 4th space, means here up to the level of the 4th thoracic vertebra, means at the level of almost you see sternal angle again, mandibular sternal joint. Anteriorly it will be having in the same horizontal plane, right at this place it will make an arch. And because more anteriorly, when an arch, because this arch will come from posterior to anterior. Why? Because just behind the sternum, you see that just behind your second costal cartilage, almost here, your great vessel that is called the superior vena cava has now been formed here. So on the posterior surface of the superior vena cava, this will open. Why not all these arteries, all these veins actually join the superior vena cava directly? Because superior vena cava is not present down there. Or why not inferior? Because inferior vena cava is also not present, because it is present just up to the diaphragm. Means where the heart itself is sitting, when the heart itself is sitting behind, we don't have actually great veins here. That's why the azygous system has to be made there. But this is only the business on your left side, on your right side. What happens on the left? On the left side, you will see here the same thing will happen. Ascending lumbar vein on the left side here will join with your subcostal vein to form here this time not the azygous, we form here half azygous. That will receive you see 11th, that will receive 10th, 9th and 8th. Means from 8 to 11 it will receive 8, 9, 10, 11 means 4 posterior intercostal veins it will receive. What about the upper 4 intercostals? Upper 4 means from the 4th to 7th, 4, 5, 6, 7. It will come here, they will join to form here another azygous, but this will be half. So that means in comparison with your azygous, these two veins which have been formed here, they will be half azygous. So you call them half azygous, you call them hemiazygous. This will be called as the superior hemiazygous and this is called the inferior hemiazygous. But this superior hemiazygous at the level of the 7th thoracic vertebra turns here and will go into the azygos finally. And this will be actually at the 8th thoracic vertebra turns here and will go into the azygos again. Means azygous vein will receive actually bilateral, but they are not formed bilaterally. Bilaterally means it will actually send here indirectly from superior hemiazygous, inferior hemiazygous. Means posterior up to your from your 4th onward it has been done here. What about the 1st and 2nd and 3rd here? About the 1st the vein is separate. About 2nd and 3rd the vein should combine. You see again here. So you will actually be watching here. So you have seen again 12th subcostal vein. I have already told you 12th subcostal on the left and right side it will be separate thing here. You see 12th 12th subcostal means 12th vein. Are you subcostal veins ascending lumbar and subcostal on the right side they join together to form azygous, ascending lumbar and subcostal on the left side they will join to form the inferior hemiazygous. Difference is this. But what about the 1st, 2nd and 3rd? Watch here. The first one which I was telling you here. See here first. First posterior intercostal. You watch this. This one. On left and right. These two intercostal veins, these are called supreme intercostal veins. And these are called supreme intercostal veins, and you are watching here how the supreme intercostal veins they are draining here. See the supreme intercostal vein, this will be actually draining. Now you can see this is your subclavian vein, as I say brachiocephalic vein. This is your brachiocephalic vein also, both join together to form superior vena cava. This one here brachiocephalic. So supreme intercostal vein drains into the brachiocephalic on its own side. This was a right and this is a right supreme intercostal vein drain also in, you see this one here. This is first. This is first. They are draining into what? Brachiocephalic vein. Where? Brachiocephalic vein on the right and left side here. So first here and first here. This is called supreme intercostal vein. But what about the 2nd and 3rd? You see 2nd and 3rd. 2nd and 3rd. They join together to form superior intercostal, just like a artery. But this superior intercostal on the right side will join now mostly the superior, I say mostly the azygous vein. Because right side azygous vein has been formed, but here usually on the left side, the 2nd and 3rd they join together to form superior intercostal vein that will join the brachiocephalic vein, but it's connected having a collateral with the superior hemiazygous, which you know that is formed as a result of the 5th, 6th, I say 4th, 5th, 6th and the 7th here, 7th also. So about the first posterior and about the 2nd and 3rd posterior, the arrangement is different. It can be even okay, this can also open here sometimes, it's no problem because in the veins there are a lot of variations here. But you can say okay, 2nd and 3rd they both join together to form the superior intercostal, they can go into the brachiocephalic of its own side like here. But this can even have a collateral with on the left side with the superior hemiazygous, but on the right side with the azygous. This is something in the venous drainage of the thoracic wall here. So this was the last of the components among the intercostal apparatus.